All right. Welcome to another edition of Sabbath Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
Jake, how you been?
I've been well.
Good. Well, as you've noticed, Jake and I are kind of in and out of the studio these days, but
Yes.
we do have this thing that we do outside of this called work.
Yep. It's a job. But
That's right. Somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
When they'll pay somebody else to do it if we don't. So
as soon as AI takes over, we'll be here full time.
Yes, we'll be here full time, living on that universal basic income.
That's right.
So,
our AI selves will be here.
Yeah, UBI.
Yep.
So, in fact, this could be AI selves, and
no one can
and
know.
You wouldn't know.
No one will ever know.
It's gotten that good. So, well, yeah, Jake. So, what do they need to do? How do they find us?
AI. Wait, no. Go to sabbathlounge.com and check out all the things we got there. Torah portions, apologetic stuff, all kinds of videos and episodes and things we talk about. And anywhere you get where free podcasts are sold, you can find us there and listen to your heart's content. Share it with people and spread the good news.
That's right. Well, I do want to give a special shout out to our faithful listeners that are in the comments week after week. Blessed and Blooming Homestead, Shraka, KMSR 1700, Jackie and Two Feathers. Thank you for putting us on air on a regular basis. Beartron, right. Shalomi, my homie. Christine. It's big. I can't read my handwriting. Psalms 119.
No one can read your handwriting.
That's right. No, they can't. And there was Amanda something.
Amanda Hugging Kiss.
Yeah, that too. And Humble 33. And we appreciate it. Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure what I wrote here, but I appreciate all you guys that consistently are in the chat, and it's very, just very humbling to see you there and interact with you. We appreciate that, and always if you can like, share, comment, subscribe, all those things, and also please keep us in mind if you know somebody interesting that has a podcast that might interview with us, we'd be happy to do that. So pass our name along.
That's right. You're right, Matt. It is humbling to see people take time out of their day to kind of chat with us in the chat room there while the video is going. We appreciate that.
Yep, and to care enough to check on us, and if we don't podcast or something, like, are you guys okay? Yeah. So
I think we got people checking holes, making sure we're not in them. So
yeah, that's always good. Yeah. Well, we've been in the middle of a series for quite a minute here, and we were going to just keep plowing on until we get through the books of the Torah, and we are in Leviticus, finishing that up, and about to hit Numbers, and kind of bleeds into the last of Leviticus and the first of Numbers. Numbers, to be honest, when I scoured the scripture, it's a little harder to find a lot of the commonality in Numbers. In this last week's Torah portion for some of us was Nassau, and especially in this particular Torah portion, it's very repetitive, and it's all these gifts and offerings, and there's 12 of them.
A lot of space in this Torah portion.
Yes, and there's just not a whole lot of that crosses over into all camps, and quite frankly, even into the world we live in today. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's sometimes it's like, huh? Why? What is up? What's until, especially like I know this is a sidebar, but in this Nassau,
this whole show is a sidebar.
Sideshow Bob, I think so. That's a different show.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was interesting reading that, and it's like, why is there so much of that repetition in there? And it's almost like, was it a song? Was it there has to be something that's lost in translation maybe with us today, because we're so far removed from that kind of culture. But yeah, there's something to that repetitiveness that we saw,
like a memorization key, something like that.
Yeah. But when we read it, it's just kind of like, okay, 12, this, and this, and this.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even rhyme.
I know. Yeah.
It probably did. You can't hum to it.
No. Mm-mm. But I do think it was either a type of Hebrew poetry or had some kind of rhyming scheme that got lost. But anyway, any thoughts you guys have in there would be interesting to see for sure. So.
I like to imagine them like this is all they're about is living out Bible things, because they're like, hey, I feel like they like know this is going to go out to everybody. Thousands of years later, people are going to be reading this somehow, even though we're not reading it. But
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, when this tribe, when we go through and talk about all this, this tribe can say their part and this tribe can say their part. And, probably, I imagine this whole celebration thing going on, which may or may not have happened.
Yeah. One day we'll figure it all out and we'll oh, okay, that's why.
Or maybe it's for one day when it does all fit together and we're all together doing it.
Maybe so. Well, here we go on Christians Follow Torah, Leviticus edition. So this is maybe episode 8-ish, I think, from this. And so we are about Leviticus 24 going through the Torah. And once again, remember, we're talking about ways in which we have in common with everyone and how many Christians are already following Torah and they may not acknowledge it. And so I think it's good to have some of these ideas handy when you have conversations with people that want to be like, I don't do that. I don't have to do any of it. Well, actually, you do quite a bit of it. You just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So this is one in Leviticus 24:19. It says, whoever injures a neighbor must receive the same injury in return. This idea of reciprocal, we don't necessarily do that, especially I know in the school system. We don't go, hey, Johnny, you punched her in the stomach. Now hold still. She's going to punch you in the stomach too.
Although I was raised in a similar manner to that.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched a little known show called Pittsburgh Dad out of Pittsburgh, he's he plays the your standard Pittsburgh dad with all the Pittsburghese and the things like that. He's going to be the Catholic guy and everyone's going to be Catholic because of where he's living. And he has you want to punch each other? Well, just go punch each other anyway, and then so it's kind of a reciprocal thing. You're going to punch me, I'm going to punch you, and then it's reciprocal, it's even.
Yeah, and it does work. When you at a young age go, oh, that hurts when someone does that. It does help you go, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. And so there's some truth in that. And I think that is somewhat universal because people do understand that. You hear the phrase, what goes around comes around. And I think that's similar in this idea.
Yeah.
So, if you go around punching people in the face, you're probably going to get punched in the face. It's going to happen eventually.
It's bound to.
Yeah. Even if you're the tallest man in the room, eventually somebody will be able to stand on a ladder or something and whack you in the face.
Yeah.
Or use a big stick. But
in college, I took a Hapkido class and the instructor said, I don't know why everyone's always like trying to do these kicks in the face and stuff like that. It's like, it's hard to kick someone in the face. All you got to do is smash their leg and then their face will be down close to you. And then you can kick them in the face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's what this is about.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's what that verse was telling
Maybe
us, right?
So. Yeah.
Okay. Mixed multitude. So Leviticus 24:22, the same rule applies to every one of you. It makes no difference whether you are a foreigner or an Israelite, because I am Yahweh your Elohim. So this idea that the same rules apply to everybody kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, in the scripture, there's neither slave nor Jew nor Greek. All is one in Messiah.
Okay.
I think that I should have put that scripture in here. I don't think I did on the next one, but that does go together. And that's a common belief. People have this idea that it's a mixed multitude that's saved today. I think where we part though on it a lot of times is there are a lot of evangelical Christians, especially in the United States. It may not be true depending on where you are, but they tend to be pro-Zionist, if you will, and they tend to believe there's maybe some special thing still for bloodline, quote unquote, Jewish people. And I do think that, that's where kind of a parting of the ways, because I don't see that just because you're bloodline of something, Scripture to me does not support that you're protected
by bloodline, right?
Yeah. Exhibit A to me is Esau. Esau was in the bloodline, but he, Scripture said, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. So to me, kind of proves that that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have all kinds of examples in Scripture. I mean, he talks in Romans 11, he cuts off the natural branches and grafts in the wild branch. And see, I think that gets taken. There's kind of two ditches here that you can fall into. One is that there's this impeccable stick-to-itiveness to that bloodline lineage, and the other is we replace those guys. The church replaces the Jews, and it's like, well, it's kind of neither of those things. It's whoever wants to be grafted into the tree is grafted into the tree.
Yeah,
if you accept Yeshua, so it's people get stuck in their ditches, I think.
That's right. And I think that most modern Christianity and normal church circles, they don't catch what it says there, what we just read. So that there's mixed multitude existed, that's not a concept that they really acknowledge.
Right.
So
they play the they seem to only recognize there were Gentiles allowed into the mix in the New Testament, but it's an Old Testament concept. So since they believe it's a New Testament thing, and we believe the Old Testament still applies, now you have a situation where we're both kind of on the same page with it, maybe for different reasons.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like how you said that. I did put it in there. Galatians 3:28. There are neither Jew nor Greek, slaves nor free people, males or females. You are all the same in Messiah.
Right.
So, yeah. So I think that those two scriptures go hand in hand, and I think this is a good place to show somebody that there's a bridge between those two. Did they say the exact same thing? No, but there's an implication. There's a thread that ties them together, and just try to have that conversation with someone and walk away from it. And if they're not getting it, don't try to just keep trying to explain it over and over. You just quit talking about it, and let it sit and marinate. And they might you read through that scripture, and you just never know. Years later, even go, oh, I see what he's saying now.
Just at the end of it, say, "For those with ears, let them hear," and they'll either hear it or not.
Hear it or not.
Okay, hospitality. Leviticus 25:35. If an Israelite becomes poor and cannot support himself, help him. He must live with you as a stranger without a permanent home.
Isn't this what they were doing back when they were picking up all those illegals that had crossed over, and they were dropping them off in D.C. and New York?
They were trying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do think this concept is commonly held, and people do believe you need to help other people. I think America is Exhibit A classic situation of how helpful people are here. You see people all the time begging on street corners and things, and I see people help them all the time, and and everybody that helps them probably knows. Well, they might be doing something bad if you give them money, but if you give them a physical thing like a water bottle, they can't go buy drugs with that. Probably, maybe they could trade, but
there's something to dissolve your drugs in. Is that how drugs work? I don't know. But yeah, and sometimes it's if you feel led to give someone, like, all you have on you is some money to give them, you feel led to do that. I mean, you've done your part. It's up to them what they do with it.
Yeah, it's not on you.
But yeah, and I know the church especially, they're real good about taking care of people, and especially those within the church. I know there's programs where you can reach out to a church if you're poor and like, oh, I'm going to miss my bills this month or something like that. And they have funds in the church for helping the community in that way. So I know those kind of things are available through the church. And so that's something that I think they do real well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a thread with all that. No idols, idolatry, Leviticus 26:1. The Lord continued, never make worthless idols or set up carved statue or carved sacred stone for yourself. Never cut figures in stone to worship them in your country, because I am Yahweh your Elohim. I think that's pretty universal. I have had conversations recently where a normie Christian that I know was kind of freaked out by something that they thought was an idol, and they're like, "Oof, that was weird." And that's something we all agree on. That it's hard to argue anything else, really.
Yeah, it's like if you go into the Ichiban hibachi place and you see that big Buddha statue in the entryway, you're like, that's a no good.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times we set something like that up and go, obviously an idol, but then when you become addicted to your comfort, you make that an idol too. So
your phone.
Yeah.
I think many people, their
sports.
Phones. Yeah.
Fantasy football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even your work, for some people, or your business. I mean, just anything, your spouse, lots of things can be an idol to you.
Yeah. And it kind of depends on how it kind of depends on your personal issues, but, something I tell the kids is, don't make dessert your main meal. And so that's like, I don't have a problem if you have some screen time once in a while, but if that's all you're doing, that's supposed to be dessert. You're supposed to be, I go to work, I do my job, and I do it the best that I can. I take care of my family. I spend time with my family. I raise my children. After all that, now I have some, there's no real me time if you're a man and following biblical principles. It's always a we time and not a me time, even when you're reading or something like that, like some book that's not even related to the Bible, but it should be building you in order to build the family kind of thing. So there should be no like me time specifically, as it were, but if that makes sense.
I think that's a selfish American mindset, where you deserve this. What was it? Wasn't there? You deserve a break. There's like a candy bar.
Oh,
was it Kit Kat?
It might be.
But there definitely have been ad campaigns where it's like, you deserve this. This is right. And I do believe people kind of think that sometimes, and you can justify a lot of things when you start thinking that way.
Right.
Like,
so
I've worked really hard. I mean, you can steal time from your company even that you work for and be like, I worked really hard. I deserve this. I can do this.
Right.
And,
so you can turn those things into idols as well.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Wrong one. All right. Next.
Wedding language, Leviticus 26:2. Observe my days of worship and respect my holy tent. I am Yahweh.
I do think wedding language is commonly, a lot of people do have their eyes open to that. But still, I'd say in both camps, in regular Torah and Christianity, not everybody sees all that, but some people do see the connection, because I've definitely heard people talk about it in both camps.
Yeah, what's funny is I heard a Christian fellow just recently say, he said something along the lines of, he says, well, he used God, of course, but he goes, God cares about how you worship him, not just that you worship him, but how. And, so we say things like that, but again, it's sometimes I don't think we realize what it is we're saying, because I would say the same thing. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that was like, yeah, I'm going out telling Christians that he cares how we worship him. That's why we should do the feast days. That's why we should do Sabbath. You know what I mean? Whereas the other side of that argument is, I think the church side of that, they would argue, what we just got done talking about, where they're saying, yeah, don't worship him in a way that's like, nonchalant, or be present, taking care of what he put in front of you, and work to the best of your ability, as if working unto him, those kind of things. So same idea, and we just receive it differently for some reason.
Yeah, no, that's good. Keep the commands, Leviticus 26:3. This is what I will do if you will live by my laws and carefully obey my commands. We've talked about that one several times. It's in this Torah portion, and Yeshua himself says, keep the commandments. But I think the difference, so there's a lot of similarities here. The wording is the same, but the interpretation of this, as listening to this, can vary wildly to what that means.
Right. We had talked about how when people hear the word commands, they think commandments, and then they think 10 commandments. And so I think that's kind of where we would diverge. But I don't see a lot of like, again, this is not rainbow churches. This is churches like Matt and I grew up in, where they did have a fire for doing the will of Yah. They just had a narrow picture about what that will was, I think. But they would even say that, we should be keeping commands, but they kind of in their mind would add the word moral to that. But in principle, I think, we agree on this.
Yeah. And Leviticus 27:32, a tithe, every 10th head of cattle or sheep that you counted as holy and belongs to Yah. So definitely, and once again, this is the same thing. The two camps have a different definition about what a tithe is. So most churches, that means give them money, lots of money.
Lots of
money. And that scripture defines what a tithe is, and it's not money. So that's where it departs for sure. So
I kind of always go back to Abraham when he meets Melchizedek and tithes for the first time, kind of thing. And he gives a tenth of everything that he got when he rescued Lot. I consider money to be in that group
for sure.
But yeah, they would limit it to money is kind of my issue with it. You even have, just, it's kind of funny because just before I came to Torah, I was like going through this process of, hey, we don't even have to tithe. That's not even a New Testament thing. And I was kind of going through that, like looking at that kind of stuff. And I was like, never really like fully tested it out or anything, but that was kind of the track I was on. And then I kind of went the opposite way, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we're supposed to do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think we probably have a tendency to do that in this movement, and err on that side.
Yeah, sometimes it's like not clear to me in any way of like how to give tithe.
And who do you give the money to?
Right.
What do you trust?
Right. So like, I know a lot of people, they'll give money to teachers they listen to online because they're like, they're feeding into me. I'll tithe to them because it seems logical. Some people give to widows and orphans that they know of, or family or whatever. I have a harder time when it's like stuff out of the garden, or like a meat product I harvest, something like that. I have a little bit harder time with that. And what we tend to do is, split out a tenth of our whatever. If it's meat chickens, we'll split out a tenth of that and kind of just give those out as tithes. Sometimes, like when it's out of the garden, it's like, I don't know, I'd toss this in the field, I guess. I don't really know what to do with this thing. But or like a first fruits thing. It's like sometimes I'm not really sure what to do with it. It's not super clear about how we handle that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, put your thoughts if you have any thoughts about that in the comments. These are real things that many of us have wrestled with. Well, that pretty much comes to the end of Leviticus. Now we get into Numbers.
That's right.
Hence the Numbers.
So, Matt, we just did pull back the curtain a little bit, showing we are not experts in every element of Scripture.
Yes, for sure.
Would you say we're still learning? And
oh, yeah.
We still have a little ways to go before our perfection is met?
For sure. And, 5 years down the road, we probably... we've said at this point, we've said so many things on, that are forever, on the internet. We don't even remember probably some things we said a long time ago, but I'm sure we've contradicted ourselves at times, because we're growing and learning. And I believe we're all in this process of writing the Torah, allowing him to write the Torah on our hearts, and we're kind of at different stages on it. And yeah, we learn and grow all the time. And if you're not learning and growing and changing some, then I think you're doing something wrong.
Probably.
Because to me, the worst place to be are the people who are like, this is the way it is. There's no changing. I've been this way forever. I'm like, that's like the guy that's like, I told you I loved you 20 years ago. Do I have to tell you again? I told you once, That kind of mindset is not good with Yah.
Yeah.
So I don't think it works if we do that to him.
Probably not.
So he will not be pleased. I wouldn't do it. So, but when we come to this, we get this idea, Jake, in Numbers 15, 30 through 31.
So sin separates, and the idea of one law. But any native-born Israelite or foreigner who deliberately does something wrong insults Yahweh and must be excluded from the people. That person has despised the word of Yahweh and broken Yahweh's command. He must be excluded completely. He remains guilty. Yeah. It's a command. So when he says, do all that I command, this is a command. Yeah. You might even say commandment.
Yeah.
So, this is interesting because it's that idea of, I love how the wording here is the person has despised the word of Yahweh, because that's how we see it in the New Testament as well. Is, let's see, if you do something wrong deliberately, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have despised the word of Yahweh, and that's an exclusionary event that you've taken in. And then in the New Testament and elsewhere, it talks about there is no sacrifice for willful sin, right? He prefers obedience to sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of a scary verse. There's no sacrifice for willful sin. And this word of Yahweh, if we say, well, who's the word of Yahweh? That's Yeshua. He's the embodiment of the word of Yahweh. And so you despise Yeshua by deliberately continuing in your sin willfully. And I think that's what this is saying.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good connection. What you just said there about him being the word. Yeah, that's exactly right. But I do think, common ground that we have is we know that sin separates us. Yeah. That's common language. I think that's universal. Both camps are always, right there on the same page.
Right.
But what might be different is the definition of sin. 1 John 3:7. They may not be familiar with that.
Yeah. And
is it 1 John 3:7?
1 John 3:4.
3:4.
Yeah. And then it's kind of funny because kind of my base from church kind of led me to, I think, the understanding of how sin separates, because it was by knowing from church that sin does separate us from Yah, realizing what sin is, I'm like, well, I need to stop doing the sinning because it separates. Now, a lot of people will take that and say, well, you're saying if I sin, I'm not saved anymore. And you're like, so that's how a lot of once saved, always saved arguments go, is you'll say, well, I don't believe once saved, always saved. And then they'll say, oh, so every time you sin, you lose your salvation. It's like, well, no, I'm not saying all that. But there is a separation. So one of the things that the questions I had early on was, so if sin separates us, but it can't make us lose our salvation per se, then why does Satan encourage us to sin? Was kind of my question. And the answer I got was that, well, whether you lose your salvation from it or not, it still causes a separation in the relationship, and it breaks relationship strength with the Father. So if your only concern is salvation, you're in the wrong mindset already.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's the mindset of, I'm sorry I got caught, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
So, yeah, and it's supposed to be a relational thing, and that is different. It's definitely to me to think about it the way you want your children to see you, and most of us want our children to have a desire to please us because they love us, and not because they fear us and they're afraid that they're going to get beaten.
Right.
There are some people in this world that operate in that fear, but I don't believe it's a healthy thing. And when your kids flinch when you raise your hand and stuff like that, I'm like, that's probably not good. So I definitely probably did when one of my grandpas, when he raised his hand, and I was pretty nervous.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I visit my mom, whenever she walks by, I'm doing this.
No.
And just because, it's not because she abused me, but she definitely likes to poke at you. And so sometimes you turn into, you're blocking everything because it's coming.
Yeah.
So
you probably deserved it.
I did.
Okay, giving, Numbers 15:19, eat any of the food that comes to the land, give some of as a contribution for Yahweh. I mean, I think that's universal. It's actually kind of what you're just talking about, but we do have an innate sense of, if we've been blessed, I think it's in us to want to give back. And you even hear professional athletes, movie stars, they do this too, they get to be a certain level, and you do see a lot of benevolence amongst super rich people. They do sometimes go back to the communities they started from, and they build a center and put their name on it, or whatever it is, and they do try to help. That sometimes you don't know if that's for publicity and things like that, but I think a lot of people do that kind of giving out of it's a general want to. But I believe both camps share a passion for giving.
Yeah.
And clearly, I'm going to tell you right now, it's hard to outgive some of the Christian organizations that you see today, from Samaritan's Purse to, even like what the Baptists do with the way they feed and clothe people, and how they have these mobile units that roll out. But we in the Torah community, we have our own version of that too, with Caleb House and what they try to do there with Bear Independent. It's kind of similar.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because there's things like the angel tree thing, and then they have like the church camp thing where they send people to camp for children of prisoners. Where their parents are in jail, and so they send them to camp to have like a good Christian camp event. And it's like, it kind of makes me squirm a little bit, but then it's like, they're doing something.
Yeah.
I don't want to muzzle the ox while it treads its grain. You know what I mean? You want to. There's benefit to that, and it's a good practice.
Yeah. I would say I'm somebody who directly benefited from some of those things. And it made a difference to me, because you never know, a kid going to that thing, could find a mentor, could find somebody that just really latches onto them and they really want to emulate. And sometimes that's all a kid needs, is somebody to look up to, and somebody that they know cares about them. And, the motivation thing, it just takes so little. I see it with employees I manage. They have to know you care, and it has to be sincere, because you can definitely give lip service to things and not care, and people know. But when people feel loved and honored and respected, and like you care, a lot of times a kid, that makes all the difference in them, because they may have no one else in their life that will do that.
Yeah. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention our Sabbath Lounge's own Matthew Martin. He does a lot of work in that too, and does a lot of giving and mission work. And so we appreciate his efforts there. And, if a lot of the Torah community was doing more of it, we wouldn't really have to wince at Christian organizations doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And we by no means are trying to say we have any of this figured out.
Right.
So we're trying to figure it out as we go.
All right. Blessed. Numbers 23, 7-8. Balak brought me from Aram, the king of Moab, summoned me from the eastern mountains. Come, curse Jacob for me, he said. Come, condemn Israel. How can I curse those whom El hasn't cursed? How can I condemn those whom Yahweh hasn't condemned?
And I do think you see this scripture repeated many times, and people, regular normie Christian talks about this. I've heard them talk about it.
Anyway. This falls into the Zionist camp also, the cursing Jacob, and where they're like, well, I'm going to get it. If I get a curse for cursing Israel, I don't want to do that. And, it really, you can historically look, and people that curse Israel definitely do not turn out it doesn't turn out well for them.
No. And I would even go to say, even the modern state of Israel today, I wouldn't curse them. I think that, the like you said, the scripture about not cursing, right? I'm like, I don't think it's a good idea. Well, even if they're not true Israel, I'm still like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, I think there's still an importance to the land.
Yeah.
I think Yah has the New Jerusalem is likened to Yahweh's bride. It's important to him. The land is important to him.
Yeah.
So I do think there's benefit to understanding that.
Yeah. 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 I don't think you're going to hear anybody say it's a good idea that you should do this.
Yeah.
I
do think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And this continues. So if you don't know this story, those of you who read the Torah portions, the story.
Yeah.
But Numbers 23:9 says, I see them from the top of the rocky cliffs. I look at them from the hills. I see a nation that lives by itself, people who don't consider themselves to be like other nations. And I do think that we apply this a lot of times, maybe to the United States, even wrongly, that we take some of these things we read in scripture and be like, oh yeah, that's us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, because we are different, like no other nation, but I don't think you can do that with the scripture correctly.
Yeah, I think I think you can apply the principle, but to apply exactly, because when you look at the founding, a lot of the founders talking about how they were looking to recreate that Sinai moment and be in a relationship with Yah that they couldn't find anywhere else. And that's kind of how the nation started, was through those kind of principles. And so, so when you have things that come in to the culture that degrade all of that, then it's a very similar concept where they go, oh, someone comes in, and you see the spirit of this all over America right now, especially is the idea of all we need to do is get them a whoring with the nations, get them a whoring with the daughters of the prostitutes, right? All that stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll fall away. And that's exactly, I mean, that's what's happened. We've had our heads as a nation. We've had our heads turned away from Yah and towards some evil things, and that's how a nation falls.
Yeah. Well, look what's happened with our children and the social media, and I mean, it's definitely been happening for a long time, and right before our eyes, and it happens slowly. Usually, it doesn't happen like in big chunks, but little by little.
Yeah, but you do see a lot of Christians pointing this kind of stuff out about the degrading of the culture, similar to what Balaam and Balak were conspiring against Israel with.
Yeah.
All right. Numbers 23:10. The descendants of Jacob are like specks of dust. Who can count them or number even 1/4 of the people of Israel? Let me die the death of innocent people. Let my end be like theirs. So this is kind of rounding out that story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people accept that there are people on this earth that are blessed because of how they've been living. And then also I think where we kind of part ways is some people would also say that they're blessed just because they're of this bloodline lineage. And, I'm not so sure about that. The scripture does say he causes the rain to fall on the just and unjust. And so, but there's also a lot of scriptures that seem to say living right, you do get blessings from it.
Right. Blessings and curses.
And then this gets tied back into Revelation. And so Revelation 2:14 through 16, but I have a few things against you, you among those who follow what Balaam taught Balak. Balak trapped the people of Israel by encouraging them to eat food sacrificed to idols and to sin sexually. You've also some who that follow what the Nicolaitans teach. So return to me and change the way you think and act, or I will come to you quickly and wage war against them with the sword of my mouth. And he continues, let the person who hears listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. I will give some of the hidden manna to everyone who wins the victory. I also give each person a white stone with a new name written on it, a name that's known only to the person who receives it. So
I think we played this game in music class.
No.
If you had that little, I think it was a different game.
Maybe that was on an episode of Lost or something.
Maybe. No, we did play Button You Must Wander, though. There's a little button on a string.
Never did that.
You stand around in a circle.
Nope.
And maybe it was a pentagram shape.
Oof,
no,
creepy.
You stand around in a circle, and you got this little button on it was a washer. So the song didn't even make sense. But you pass it along the line, right? And the person in the middle has to guess who has the button at the end of the song.
Okay. Put in the comments if you ever played that game.
Button You Must Wander. Put the words to the song in there. If you know.
Yeah, sing along with it if you know the song.
Yeah. And if you're brave enough, blessed enough to be in the chat at the same time, maybe I'll put the words in there if I don't hear anyone else do it.
All right. We're looking forward to that. Be on the edge of my seat. And then back to Numbers 31:16. So this is after the story. You see, this is what happened, and this Jake kind of just talked about it. But It says, remember, they were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and caused the Israelites to be unfaithful to Yahweh. In the incident that took place at Peor, Yahweh's community experienced a plague at that time. So, with the scripture and revelation, we know that it was a sexual temptation that they did. And so we talked about it in this episode.
Right. Yeshua hates a look at the Nicolaitans. Does Yeshua hate?
Well, I believe so. That's what the scripture says. So, but yes, that is a hard concept for people some people to grasp. But there's not many things. But we just read about it in Revelation. Those were the things that he hates. And we talked about Jacob I love, Esau I hated, and he hated the Nicolaitans, and he hated what Balak did, and that the doctrine of Balaam, and that whole situation. He was not happy.
Right. And then he says elsewhere, he says there's 6 things that Yahweh hates, and the 7 of them are blah, blah, blah. Right. So, which is always confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's 6. Here's the 7 of them. Mm-hmm. So.
True.
Oh, now you've done it.
Oh.
And what's scary, I don't know about you, but when I look at this,
there's some things that this is
scary.
So for some reason it's not playing, but this is what this episode looks like. So What does he hate? So I accidentally
that's the one. That's the verse.
Yeah.
6 things that Yahweh does hate. 7 are an abomination to him. Proud look, lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among brethren. So Proverbs 6:16 to 19.
Wow. That's that was meant to be.
Yep.
Because that was not planned. That was just stumbled into there. So this was
we stumble into a lot of things.
That's right. There was a multiple part series that we did here, and we kind of broke down into different scriptures of things that he hates. And anyway, it was an interesting study. So you have to remember, all these studies start with something that we go, that's interesting. I'd like to learn more, and we just express what we learned.
Yeah. So,
and that's kind of where it came from. And so this was us kind of going through scripture, finding all these different uses of what he hated.
Yep.
So found it to be pretty interesting. So it did those little boxes around those things. So anyway, hopefully I can click this and not be stuck in a loop. There we go.
Hey, we did it.
Okay.
All right. Yah hears Numbers 27, 1 through 2. The daughters of Zelophehad, son of Hefer, grandson of Gilead, descendant of Machir, whose father was Manasseh. Are you following? Belonged to the families of Manasseh, son of Joseph. Their names were Mala, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They came to Moses and stood in front of him, the priest Eleazar, the leaders, and the whole community at the entrance to the tent of meeting. They said, "Our father died in the desert. He was not a part of Korah's followers who joined forces against Yahweh. He died for his own sin and left no sons. Why should our father's name be allowed to die out in his family because he had no son? Give us property among our father's relatives."
And this is a good scripture, too, to bring up to your atheist friend who wants to argue things like God doesn't care about women. So this is a scripture that says opposite of that. That in a culture when men and the male mind dominated. And so I think if you want to see a glimpse of some of this, you kind of see it sometimes in Arabic culture and sometimes like even in the Sharia law thing, with the way they treat women. There was some of that definitely was going on at this time. And Yah said, wait a minute, you're right. We need to make sure you guys get taken care of, because if it was left up to the men, they wouldn't have. So they would have been like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And do we know if they followed all of these things we don't know, but I believe for sure these girls got protected because they spoke up. And it's also, speaking up and crying out to Yah and him hearing you cry.
Right.
But clearly women do matter and are important to him.
All right. Numbers 30, verse 2. If a man makes a vow to Yahweh that he will do something or swears an oath that he won't do something, he must not break his word. He must do everything he said he would do. I stole your reading.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, as a short one too. But yeah, that's a universal principle that your word means something. I think that's what most people teach their children, because you have to, if you're a good parent, because if not, your kid's word will mean nothing to you. When they say, yeah, I'll do that, I'll clean my room, and they're like, whatever. I mean, that has to mean something. And if you don't enforce it and help encourage them to understand that, then you've done a disservice to us all, because you've raised somebody that's going to go out into society and to the world and be like, whatever, doesn't matter. And
it's a good way to raise a prison kid.
Yeah, that's right. Don't do that. So we need less of that for sure, not more of that. But meaning we need more people that keep their word. We kind of have fallen off the wagon a little bit, I think, in the world. There's not as many people keep their word, or they keep their word when it's convenient, seems like.
Yeah.
Another example of Yah listening is Numbers 32, 1-5. Jake.
The tribes of Reuben and Gad had a large number of livestock. They saw that the regions of Jazer and Gilead were a good place for livestock. So they came to Moses, the priest Eleazar, and the leaders of the community, and said to them, Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elealeh, Sebam, Nebo, and Beon, the land that Yahweh won for the community of Israel, is a good place for livestock. Gentlemen, we have livestock. Please give us this land as our property. Don't make us cross the Jordan River.
And then, so we went back too far. But we see this principle where he listened to them. So, this one has brought out some debate even in our own Torah fellowship before about, was it wrong for them to do this? And I think, it's kind of dumb. I think they settled for something lesser maybe than what Yah had for them. But technically, under the original Abrahamic land grant, they were still in the promised land.
Right.
So, it's definitely probably not the fat of the land. And maybe that was, I think it's kind of like he allowed them going, okay, you don't want the good stuff that I have for you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll spread it out a little different, and other people will benefit because you said no, but you're going to have to help.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes he does that. I think he gives us the desire of our heart, just like what Jake says, he gives us the leaders we deserve kind of thing. And so there are times when he gives us what we ask for. And maybe sometimes we've asked foolishly for it, and he's like, oh, okay, here you go. You asked for it.
Looks like you have a lesson to learn.
Yeah. So then, we don't know in scripture if they ever were like, oh man, when they went to visit their cousin in the tribe of Dan or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is what y'all got. So I guess not Dan, but Judah. Someone
was better off.
That's right.
Grass was greener on the other side.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to debate for sure. What do you think in the comments? Do you think they were in the wrong? Did they just cheat themselves? And I tend to think they just cheated themselves a little bit. So, and just like we might do the same thing. We might, get impatient and be like, yeah, just give it to me now. And maybe that's all it was.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one.
All right. Numbers 35, 9-12. Yahweh said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when you cross the Jordan River and enter Canaan, select certain cities to be places of refuge. Anyone who unintentionally kills another person may run to them. These cities will be places of refuge from any relative who can avenge the death. So anyone accused of murder will not have to die until he has had a trial in front of the community."
So do you think that's universal in modern day Christianity, the city of refuge?
In blue states, they got a lot of, in blue cities, they got those cities of refuge for the illegal immigrants, right? They got the sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities, that's right.
So Matt's saying we're in favor of that.
That's
Sabbath
right.
Lounge's official position on
Sanctuary
that topic.
cities. No, I'm not saying that. No. But yeah, I do think it's interesting to think about. But the point that I see in it is that I think it's universal. Both camps agree that he thought of everything. He knew ahead of time, we're going to kill people. We're going to kill each other. And sometimes it's going to be an accident. And there needed to be a provision. There needed to be a procedure, a thing, a place for that accidental death. And he took care of everything he could think of. So, and I believe that that's a pretty easy thing for everybody to accept there.
Yeah, I think the idea that Yahweh understands human fallibilities and things like that human nature and the destruction it can bring, things like that, what it is to live in a fallen world. I think we share that understanding that he has a good handle on what that our failings look like.
Yeah. He definitely knows us well. The struggle of me clicking buttons is real. And that is the end of the Christians Follow Torah, and we've got all the way through Numbers, and we'll soon start Deuteronomy.
You didn't skip one, did you?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah. Okay. But there is one I didn't see in there.
Okay.
That I just thought of, like probably on my way over here. But it was
a little late to tell me.
I know, right? But it's the tassels, the Numbers 15 about the tassels. And you would think, well, no, we don't really agree on that. But then you see the bracelets that everyone wears. What would Jesus do, right?
Yeah.
And it's a form of that. It's the principle of that.
Yeah.
So I think there's commonality there.
The T-shirt, the Christian T-shirt. That's a good point, because I did look at that scripture and I was like, well, I don't know about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do believe that one it could be in there for sure, because of that. People do wear it even on their car sometimes. The fish. You don't see the fish anymore, do you? So,
sometimes I see them once in a while.
Yeah, but back in the day, you would do like this metallic looking chrome fish that was raised, and you put it on. I haven't seen somebody have one of those in a long time.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
keep an eye out for it. Let us know in the comments if you see
you'll
them.
probably see it. Now your Facebook feed and other places will start showing you probably Christian T-shirts and fish.
That's right.
Use Sanctified Supply. We recommend them.
Exactly.
So
I think it also might apply to the idea of putting the words on the doorpost of your house thing. I know a lot of Christian folks that they put it up around their house. They'll put like words and verses up all over the house, and same kind of deal.
Yeah, I can remember back when I was first school teaching. I guess I had told a fellow colleague of mine, he was a devout, kind of like a Christian preacher on the side, and I told him about how much I like Deuteronomy 6 about teach the commandments to your children when you lay down, when you get up, when you walk, and bind them on your foreheads and in your hands, and write them on the door frames of your houses. That always got me, because as a parent, I way before I ever followed Torah, I understood that was my assignment.
Mm-hmm.
That was my mission. And that was also my mission as an educator, that that was something I was supposed to do. And, a lot of people have that understanding, and a lot of people in regular Christianity love that scripture, and that'll be coming up in Deuteronomy, in our Deuteronomy study for sure.
Right.
But yeah, that's all good. That's a good one. Well, Jake, any other thoughts? Anything else?
No, I think we did a good job covering it, if I do say so myself.
Well, you did. Pat yourself right on the back.
Someone has to do it.
That's right. So there you go. Well, we do appreciate that you stayed with us for an hour here. This one we kept fairly short, but we do appreciate that you were with us and listening to us, and encourage you to listen to there's quite a body of work of Sabbath Lounge. If you're just now, if you made it to this point, wow, thank you. You've really done something.
That's right.
For
those of you that have been with us from the beginning.
Yes. But there is quite a body of work, many videos, many different playlists, interviews, all kinds of things. It's also cataloged to a certain extent on SabbathLounge.com. There's a teaching page where you can kind of find things in an ABC order of different things that we've done. And anyway, we encourage an email. If you're really bored one day and just want to send us an email, send it to SabbathLounge@gmail.com, and we will eventually get it and read it. And we appreciate that. And look forward to hearing back from you. Yeah,
and for long timers, if you have seen the Tube Man video, one of our, high views was on the Tube Man video. If you've seen it, put it in the comments.
That's right.
And if you haven't, I'm sure you'll go back and check it out now.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, we appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we'll be back next week. But the next time we're back for sure, we'll be starting Deuteronomy.
That's right.
Unless we do an interview in the middle, which could happen too.
We'll see.
All right. Well, this is Matt
and Jake
signing out.